it is a highly jurisprudential in understanding human rights from different observations, how human rights have come in or within you. How will you be able to clear the doubts? I mean, the conflicts which are around you whenever you want to go for clearing, issues in connection to the subject matter of human rights. See, as you have already been known, so based on definitions, classification, and theoretical perceptions in understanding human rights, my observation is very simple in addressing some of the new challenges who have come in on the basis of postmodernistic perspectives. As long as you are running with postmodernism, so long you are not supposed to forget the developments that were taken place on the basis of modernism. What is modernism? So, how will you understand it? What are the contents in it? Everything should be looked in this session. Here, as you already been known, earlier what had happened, temple was supreme, mosque was supreme, church was supreme. There was no scope for protection of human rights from different dimensions. We had just theoretical observations and practical implications. To overcome all these, as many as political scientists, social scientists, and economists, jurists, social reformers, philosophers, protagonists, then as many as people started writing on the human values, human rights. The perceptions of human rights are quite demanding. See, whatever you look, the human rights may be different from others. It depends on how you have come from. That's very, very important. It depends on you, how you are actually visualizing human rights. And they are actually divided into several pieces. Look at the Euro-centric approaches, how European Union has been working day and night based on its own regional integration. Look at US-centric approach, United States-centric approaches. So based on organization of American states, how in what manner human rights are supposed to be taught in these areas are concerned. Look back to Asia and Afro approaches, Asian and African approaches. They are highly vulnerable because almost all the countries in these perspectives are highly vulnerable. They are highly vulnerable in the sense that they have come from a very little background. Still they are developing. Our GDP is very low as compared to others. Look at the people who are living below poverty line, country like India, highly marginalized and weaker. Look at especially during COVID-19, coronavirus, COVID-19. Of course, it's very difficult to have some documents, despite of having as many as non-governmental organizations or voluntary organizations who have been actually working day and night to understand the problems of the weaker sections of the society during pandemic, COVID-19 as such. However, the way in which government has been looking forward to be helpful to the people who are neglected during this issue shall also be looked even from the perspective of a post-modernistic perspective. Let us understand what is postmodernism, what are the contents in it, and how in what manner you can clear certain doubts in connection to postmodernism, why postmodernism has come in, and we are addressing some of the issues and challenges through postmodernistic approaches. That's very, very important. In postmodernism, what you will find, so you find on the basis of some theoretical perceptions, how in what manner certain legendary of thoughts have spoken of. When you look the human rights have not come on the basis of some what shall I say, the opinions given by few. They have come in on the basis of theoretical perceptions that has to be looked into. Look at or just go through the jurisprudence. So in jurisprudence, you will have gone through as many as theoretical perceptions and practical implications. Take for an example, it could be legal positivism, anthropological approach, economic approach, Karl Marxism, then Edward said Orientalism, Michael Foucault, and later on explanations on the basis of postmodernism. Why these schools of thought have come in? What are the reasons? Why, Jeremy Bentham questioned the natural law philosophy. He says nonsense tilt. See, look at the intricacies which are in fact emphasized on the basis of westernization and easternization. Westernization, easternization. Look at India's perspectives. So before the coming into force of the Constitution of India, we had just unwritten, uncodified laws, which were actually based on certain what shall I say, commentaries, be it Yagnavalkya Smriti Manusmriti or Kautilya's Arthashastra, Chanakya Niti, Danda, or something else, however it could be. And they were not actually passed on the basis of parliamentarian. We did not find parliament to decide what is to be done, what ought not to be done. We did not find even what shall I say, opposition party to question them. They were actually questioned on the basis of as and when people started working on the human values, humanity, that has to be looked into. So what is humanity here, and how will you understand humanity? That's very, very important. We are all human beings, no doubt in it. How will you understand humanity? So how can you enjoy your rights? See, there is a secrecy of life. I must share with you. If at all you want to enjoy your life, first of all, you have to understand what are the rights of others. That's very, very important. First of all, you have to understand what are the rights of others. That's very, very important. Through which you can understand what is right and what is duty, what is obligation. Otherwise, it's very difficult to be flexible with the human rights are concerned, isn't it? If something has gone wrong to you, when there is a gross violation of human rights, you cannot ask me. You can only ask the government. Government is held responsible to pay compensation to you. And it is one of the responsibilities on the part of a state to render justice to a common man who is actually standing before the court. So in that context, human rights have come in. Perhaps you may have gone through, no doubt in it. Perhaps many professors might have spoken on how human rights have come in on the basis of historical antecedents, or it was because of historical injustice and practical denials. Perhaps these rights may have come through. They are within you. See, every day when there is a violation of human rights, you are just raising your hands, no doubt in it. And how will you resolve them? That's very, very important. In which way? Where exactly you can find rooms to understand them? That's very, very important. So in this context, I have taken this topic to address you all and show you something, how in what manner postmodernism has contributed a lot to shape the human rights in these days. Whatever you have spoken earlier history might be from Greek to postmodernism. From Greek to postmodernism, see, as many as theoretical perceptions were established. Even Stoic philosophers came in with as many as foundations to understand human values, rights. Okay, so you have classified them very recently, but earlier all these rights had to be called as if the human values or moral values, natural rights, inalienable, integrated. They were instrumental in character. These are the perceptions we have, and they had to be called as if dharma. Even Manu said, dharma is a law. Dharma is a law. However, you might have got some criticisms leveled against to the concept of dharma, in which the Manu emphasized long ago. No doubt in it. He says, dharma, that itself is a law that has to. What is dharma here? Dharma means one owes a duty towards others. That's very, very important. One owes a duty towards. You have to respect others. That's very, very important. You have to respect the law of the land. Then only you can understand where exactly you have come from. Otherwise, it's very difficult. And moreover, if rather you would say, what is the civilization and the culture? So what kind of civilization you have and culture you have? And how will you understand civilization and culture? See, what is civilization? What we do is our civilization. What we for is our culture. First of all, you have to understand what is the dichotomy between civilization and the culture as such. Whether they should go hand in hand, that has to be verified. You have to think positively in understanding the civilization and the culture as such. So in this context, in fact, the human values, or put it in a proper way, the rights, how exactly these rights have come in, that's are within you. That's very, very important. And moreover, if rather I would say, long ago, especially in Europe, when we had 30 years of war, that 30 years of war actually running with religious fanaticism or fundamentalisms. So when the 30 years of war was widespread, especially in Europe, everywhere, especially in Europe, people were actually having enmity over others, and there was no scope for the protection of human rights and fundamental freedoms. And the states were actually acting arbitrarily. And king was supreme, temple was supreme. There was no scope for restricting them. So that's why people started questioning the old history of mankind. Even Aristotle, then Socrates, then Plato, they started instigating the people to raise some questions to the old beliefs. So that's why temperament to question the society came out with widespread analysis. See, these rights, whatever you are understanding human rights in this refresher course, 15th refresh course, have come in on the basis of questioning the society. On the basis of questioning the society, you can enjoy your rights. This is what we have known. See, this, on the other hand, without recognition of rights, it would be virtually impossible. This is what H.L.A. Hart said. When I was actually dealing with this, see, recognition of rights shall also be looked into. With you to effectuate rights, there shall be minimum effectiveness. Otherwise, it's very difficult to understand the human values, our rights, whatever you are running over here. Let us understand. Yeah. What is postmodernism? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
ಒಬ್ರು ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿಲ್ಲ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತುಂಬಾ ಡಿಸ್ಟರ್ಬ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ ಕೇಳಿ.
Hello, Mangaleshwari madam, kindly mute your audio.
Reena Thomas. Renis Thomas.
Thomas sir.
Please mute audio.
Renis Thomas sir.
Ramesh sir. Renis Thomas.
Yes sir. Renis Thomas sir.
Yeah. Okay.
Continue, sir.
What is a postmodernism? It's a great certain conceptions central to modernism. Especially in modernism, you give more importance to capitalistic movement, but it's not so in the case of a postmodernism as such. See, when there was widespread issue in France, the people who were actually writing and favoring Karl Marxism started writing on postmodernism. You know why? The reason is very, very simple. When you are actually running with these rights, first of all, you have to understand where exactly they have come from. So later on, then Michael Foucault, who were the best followers of Karl Marx, started writing on postmodernism. So in postmodernism, you are just balancing the interest between haves and have-nots, or capitalism and communism. The capitalism and communism should be looked into. And how will you understand capitalism and communism? Capitalism, you give more importance to money, power. Now, how will you gain power? Through modernism. In a similar ways, postmodernistic approach. So look at Jeremy Waldron. He puts it the new criterion of a political legitimacy. Political legitimacy in the sense that the postmodernism has come in on the basis of political legitimacy as such. Then the fulfillment of human rights has become, in the words of John Rawls, a necessary condition of a regime's legitimacy. See, John Rawls has emphasized on the basis of theory of justice, in which he has emphasized on the basis of distributive and corrective of justice. See, when there is a war, there is a peace. When there is a peace, there is a war. That has to be looked into. They are interchangeable. Even after 100 years, you find the same. It could be internal or international armed conflict or war as such. See, as long as you are living so long, it's very difficult to be flexible with some concrete solutions. However, there is a room for discussing all this that has to be looked into based on certain developments that are taken place. So look at the French Declaration of Rights of Man. Kindly have a look on Article 2, of which states that the end in view of every political association is the preservation of natural and imprescriptible rights of man as such. And it means that these rights, as you have already been known, based on Hoffidean philosophy. Okay, rights, it's an interest. Even on the other hand, someone has emphasized rights is an interest recognized and protected by laws. Where there is a right, there is a duty. Where there is a duty, there is
somebody is disturbing sir, so much.
Narayan sir, mute yourself.
QCOM BTD, please mute yourself.
QCOM BTD.
Can I proceed?
Okay, sir.
Yeah. I must share with you, based on Confucius philosophy, and I would say, no one is a superior or inferior. All are equally footing. That has to be looked into. Okay. That's what we are actually emphasizing on these rights. Yeah. Okay. Let us understand what is postmodernism.
ನಾನು ಫೋನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೆ ಸರ್
ನಾಗಶೇಷಮ್ಮ ಮೇಡಮ್ ನಾಗಶೇಷಮ್ಮ ಮೇಡಮ್
ಹೇಳಿ ಸರ್.
ಕ್ಯೂ ಕಮ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಜಯರಾಮ್ ಸರ್
ಕೇಶವ್ ಅಂತ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಸರ್.
ಜಯರಾಮ್ ಸರ್ ಅವರು
ನಾರಾಯಣ್ ಸರ್, ನಾರಾಯಣ್ ಸರ್.
ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಸರ್.
ಯಾರು ಮೇಡಮ್?
Okay, let's understand what is postmodernism. Is a term that encompasses a wide range of developments in philosophy, film, architecture, art, literature, and culture as such. So what is philosophy here? Philosophy is nothing but higher levels of generalization. It's a deep-rooted knowledge. It's not actually based on half-minded or short-minded. So originally, a reaction to modernism, referring to lack of artistic, intellectual, or cultural thought or organized people, started around 1940s. Exact date is actually unknown. However, this postmodernism came out with certain understanding to tackle the situations of modernism message.
ಬ್ಲೂ ಇಂಕ್ ಹಾಕೋಣ ಸರ್.
Okay. Yeah. According to Michael Freedom, for example, emphasizes that it is impossible to prove conclusively that human beings have rights in the existential and moral sense. Even otherwise, Ronald Dawkins also concedes the difficulty in understanding the old perceptions on the human rights are concerned. And on the other hand, the rights of all human beings, that is there everywhere and anytime. The human rights are actually emphasized by saying that it has to be looked from different dimensions that has to be looked into. It has been criticized from different dimensions, time and again. Of course, no doubt in it. When the modernization came in, with all human history, they started questioning the modernization, especially the people started targeting the westernized approaches, or put it in a proper way, the capitalism started questioned by as many as people as such. That has to be looked into. And on the other hand, this subjectivist view of human rights is severely criticized and rejected by postmodernists. I mean, postmodernistic thinkers, they started questioning the earlier history, especially Marx to Weber and critical theorists to postmodernists. They questioned the integrity of the earlier notion as such. For example, this rationality is in the form of the capitalism creates a situation where all that a solid melts into air. Even for Weber, he says it leads to the bondage of the bureaucratic iron cage as such. So in this context, I must share with you whether sound bites or law bites. That's very, very important. Whether sound bites or law bites, which is supreme. That has to be looked into, whether sound is supreme or law is supreme. This is very, very important. And in many platforms, I have already been spoken of on the basis of a conflicting interest. The conflicts are many, many. It's very difficult to be flexible with certain resolutions? How will you have some resolutions when there are plenty of conflicts in the society? Conflict in the society. Something has to be looked into, and you have to verify and understand the conflicts in which they have been actually running since the time immemorial, as such, since time immemorial. So in this context, since you have got the very good constitution and the international law, you have to understand them, verify. That's very important. See, on the other hand, Ronald Dworkin and John Rawls adopt a kind of apologist attitude towards the theoretical foundations of rights, and refusing the play of the traditional role of moral magician by plucking ethical aims out of a metaphysical hatters. Metaphysical in the sense that, as you have already been understood in Sanskrit, aham brahmasmi. Something is actually is there. I mean, beyond the power of a human being. That's a metaphysics. So that is there. So how will you control your external behavior? It's very difficult. So what are inner behaviors and external behavior? How will you understand inner behavior and external behavior? So you cannot direct me to shave every day, or beard and all, isn't it? You cannot ask me to clean everything. So that has to be looked into. It depends on my inner behavior. So how will you regulate my external behavior? How, in what manner you are going to behave properly, and how in what manner you are going to understand the rights and duties of others. So that is very, very important when you are actually running with these. And on the other hand, so in 1970, in fact, a group of post-structuralists in France developed a radical critique of modern philosophy, which roots discernible in Nietzsche and Kierkegaard and Heidegger, became known as postmodernistic theorists. In the sense that, as I've already made clear, your rights, all rights which are actually emphasizing here and there, might be civil, political rights, or economic or social. Many rights have come in on the basis of theoretical observations are concerned. One shall not be, forgotten to understand the world history of mankind. So it is because of historical injustice and practical denials you are running with these rights are concerned. So that's why the modern bureaucratic state has become dysfunctional, either because it has colonized other life forms, or because it has inappropriately interfered with the functioning of other systems. So other systems, that to subsystems. It is because of these reasons you are not finding good solutions, especially in the field of human rights violations are concerned. So that's why the postmodern critical theory arises out of emancipatory everyday practices are concerned. And moreover, the politics and the law in the postmodern transition is the emergence of a new legal mechanism and of micro revolutionary practices are concerned. So how will you gain the political hegemony through the postmodernistic perspective? This is what Jacques Derrida, Michael Foucault, Jean Francois Latrat, and Jean Bertrand, they have taught us to understand the human rights, even from the perspective of the modernization or postmodernistic approaches are concerned. New and challenging modes of thought and writing pushed the development of new areas and topics in philosophy. As I said, say how in what manner philosophy has given certain roots to establish the human values all along. So by the 1980s, this spread to America and the world as such. So people started working on the postmodernistic approaches how in what manner human rights shall be read out and taught through the postmodernistic approach, especially when you are actually running. You have already crossed the modernization. You are in postmodernism. Please understand, we have already crossed we have already crossed the modernization. You are in postmodernism. That has to be looked into. See, your Stone Age was then more than 300 years. Then your IT, information technology, had had just 13 years of experience. Now you are in a digital technology as such. Tomorrow something may be widespread. Earlier we were teaching offline. Now we are actually teaching via online as such. That see, look at how in what manner the science and technology they have given you certain rooms to understand as many as perceptions on the basis of the nature as such. So in this context, I must share with you, see, first of all, the way in which the natural law philosophy, which was widespread earlier based on some exponents, be it Thomas Aquinas, what he says, dictate of right reason. What kind of right reason you have, and you have to judge what is right and what is wrong, what is good and what is bad. What is good for me may not be good for you. What is bad for me may not be bad for you. It depends on the perception of the human being as such. See, temperament to raise some questions, that is there. Even in any research, it could be research in even in the field of the law as such. So obviously, if rather I would say, first of all, you have to understand what kind of traits and abilities you have when you are actually running with the human rights are concerned. So that's why I must share with you how in what manner that the postmodernism has contributed a lot to shape human rights. And on the other hand, you can have some criticisms, no doubt in it. So based on your knowledge, you can have some criticisms leveled against to the postmodernism, how postmodernism has contributed a lot to shape how postmodernism has had questioned the earlier history. Be it, you can start with the Greek philosophy. You can start with the Greek philosophy and end with, Setna's synthetic jurisprudence as such. How in what manner that the synthetic jurisprudence has contributed a lot to shape even human rights or human values are concerned. Look at, when you are actually running with this, obviously the statements given by Jeremy Bentham shall also be verified. The first exponent of the utilitarianism teaches law as morality. In his opinion, moral values are actually mastered by pain and pleasure. Pain means social evils. Pleasure means happiness in the society as such. See, how will you get happiness in the society? Happiness is always with you. Please understand. Get happiness from yourself. That's one of the major observations we have. Then pleasure promotes happiness of the majority. When the majority of the people are there, minority has to be suffered. That is that. Well, obviously, tomorrow he will have got his own demands before the court of law or before certain agencies who are actually running with the human rights observations are concerned. So that's why a legislation which increases pain of society cannot be encouraged in utilitarian views. Suppose you have passed a legislation which is highly unconstitutional. You have to express your feeling by saying that this law is actually unconstitutional. It is against to the mankind as a whole. If the provisions of the Human Rights Act of 1993 are not sufficient or actually against to the mankind as a whole, you can be liberal to question the very purpose of the act, and you can bring out some action plan to overcome some of the issues in connection to the subject matter of human rights are concerned. You can say unconstitutional. Look at especially in international level, when you are actually questioning some provisions of the covenants or agreements or treaties, if they are not in consonance with the perimeter norms of general international law, if they are against to the public morality, I mean international morality, you can question them based on Article 53 of Vienna Convention on Law of Treaties 1969, wherein it has outspoken on the principle of just cautions as such. Just cautions as such. So in this context, whatever Jeremy Bentham has emphasized by saying that a legislation which increases pain of society cannot be encouraged in utilitarian views as such. See, greatest happiness of the greatest number shall also be looked even from the perspective of Jeremy Bentham's approaches are concerned. On the other hand, J.S. Mill also a flower of the same school states that morality is right. Morality is right. No doubt. Prevailing legislations of time claim that they are legislated for common good of the society. Legislations are there to shape the society. That's very, very important. This is what I have known one of the statements given by Stephen Wago of United States of America. He says, law is an instrument of social change. Yes, of course, it may change from time to time as a science and technological development. That has to be looked into. You have to see law from the perspective of the society. When there is a law, there is a society. That has to be. And moreover, the law and life should go hand in hand. Without law, how can you be survive? It's very difficult. So in this context, I must share with you, there is a closest connection between law and society. They should go hand in hand. There shall not be any vertical or rectangle scenarios. So the law is there to help the people who are actually living in the corner side of the society. You have to uplift them. Yeah, see, you have to wipe out the tears of these people. As I said in many platforms, by saying that, if somebody is actually crying at home, that the mother should know why he is actually crying. If somebody is actually, crying here in India, that the government should know why he is crying. What is his problem? You have to ask them, and what kind of problems he is actually facing. That's very, very important. Otherwise, how can you understand human rights? See, or otherwise they would be called as a paper tigers. Paper tigers. This is very, very critical in understanding the human rights are concerned. On the other hand, utilitarian jurists, especially Jeremy Bentham, introduced a system of the calculation of pain and pressure of society. India's a recent economic policy to permit foreign direct investment in multi-branded retail sector can also be analyzed on the juristic view as such. See, as I have already emphasized in the first session, on the basis of developmental goals, 2015. So how, in what manner you are going to implement them at the local level? Since India is actually suffering from as many as maladies or the chaos and anarchies, isn't it? So how, in what manner these goals can be implemented? How, in what millennium goals should be implemented at the local level? First of all, you have to understand how people are living over here, especially in India. I must share with you, Profs, many people might have outspoken on, the triple justice. So what is a triple justice? Political, economic, and social justice. So what kind of social justice shall be rendered to the people who are actually highly marginalized, a country like India as such? Though we have had, constitutional law for this country and many legislations, so look at the problems of the vulnerable sections of the society is actually being continued, be it women, children, or orphans, or SCs, STs, or minorities, or LGBT, and so on and so forth. See, in this context, I must share with you, addressing these human rights, even from the perspective of jurisprudence, shall also be verified. time and again. On the other hand, Immanuel Kant's thoughts on liberty, thoughts on liberty have slight differences. Of course, you have to question them, no doubt in it. There might be some differences, no doubt in it. As I said, you are a better judge what is right and what is wrong. And moreover, if rather I would say, he prescribes us law with liberty, but which is not absolute, and it has to undergo certain conditions. He held that no one shall be used others as a means of their end as such. The same, similarly, even on the other hand, Confucius philosophy and Lao Tse philosophy, they have been actually outspoken in understanding the history of mankind. It means that you cannot walk on the basis of your toes. Look at how plants and trees are growing. They grow naturally. They don't require any support from anybody. They're independently growing like anything. So that has to be looked into. And moreover, if rather I would say, when you are actually running with these discourses, obviously, first of all, you have to understand the relative terminologies between jungle law and the rule of law. What is rule of law and jungle law? So that has to be verified from different dimensions are concerned. On the other hand, as many as the schools in which you have gone through, it could be historical school, realistic, sociological, analytical, philosophical school. They have been actually outspoken in order to understand the human rights from different observations are concerned. The eminent law specialist of this school, say for example, Hugo Grotius, he heralded transformational changes, especially in the field of the public international law as such. When the 30 years of war was actually ended, then the Treaty of Westphalia, 1648 came in. The people started working on the supranational law or transnational law. So how transnational law and supranational law came in? They came in with all perceptions. So in that context, look at your Treaty of Versailles. Treaty of Versailles, 1919. Then Kellogg Beyond a Fact, 1928, and based on these, as many as observations came in, even from the perspective of what shall I say, League of Nations. Why League of Nations failed? With a view to maintain or restore international peace and security. Though League of Nations was actually supported by few countries, in fact, United States of America left out. What was the reason, we don't know. Even today, we are digging like anything. And it did not strictly prohibit the war. The way in which it had some manifestations, had some problems. That's why, when League of Nations came in, there were 62, members. During the end of the World War II, 32 members, almost all declined. It means that League of Nations did not strictly prohibit the war. It had some functional deficiencies. It was highly dysfunctional in order to maintain or restore international peace and security as such. So that's why Winston Churchill, Roosevelt, then as many as the political leaders of the world, they came out with United Nations organization as is. Although you have got some criticisms leveled against to the United Nations organization, the way in which United Nations organization has been working day and night to restore or maintain international peace and security shall also be looked into. And okay, no doubt, we can appreciate the development that are taken place through UNO shall also be found to be correct. On the other hand, see, apart from these theoretical perceptions, the natural law hypothesis propounded by Hugo Grotius, John Locke, and Rousseau altered the current organizations and held that social contract was the prime of the general public as such. So through social contract, you can overcome some of the issues in connection to the subject matter of the flagrant violation of the human rights as such. On the other hand, Hegel was the most persuasive scholar of a philosophical school. His framework is a necrotic one, and as per him, the state and the law both are the developmental. Is a state and law, they should go hand in hand. Of course, no doubt, as Prof, you may have gone through, certain statements given by Jean Bodin in his De La Republic. He says king has had, unrestrained, rights, in the sense that he is supreme in naive law. It was actually questioned by as many as, look at, Machiavelli also started questioning, and the same. Obviously, if rather you would say king can do no wrong, is a wrong. The king can also commit certain mistakes. So how will you overcome them? So in that context, the arbitrary actions of the state shall also be verified time and again. Simply, you cannot give more powers to a state. Once you are given more powers to a state, they can do whatever they wanted. Tomorrow, there will be chance to have flagrant violation of human rights from different dimensions are concerned. So that's why if somebody is crying, that my state should know it. Yeah. From postmodernism to law and truth. What is truth and law? So how will you understand? Truth is always depending on the perceptions of a human being. If you start telling truth, you will find a lot of enemy, isn't it? One should understand. ಏನಾಗಿದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸತ್ಯ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ವೈರಿಗಳು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ. So ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಏನು ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. It's very difficult. So, but something has to be looked into. So in this context, I have designed it, the collectivism, fundamentalism, expressivism, individualism, skepticism. So what kind of skepticism we have, and how will you understand these perceptions time and again? That's very, very important. Some states follow democracy, and others they follow, communism, socialism, dictatorship, military, and many. So how will you have, oneness when you are actually running with human rights? How will you reach internationalization of human rights? This is what it is highly shouldered on United Nations organization. How can you understand internationalization of human rights? Kindly go through UN Charter 1945, wherein it has entirely taught us the behavior of the states, how states should behave at the international level, how, in what manner the behavior of state shall be regulated. So in that context, I must share with you that the internationalization of human rights, is it possible or not, and how, in what manner it is possible, how, in what manner it's not possible. It's a question of a fact and a law as such. So in these perspectives, however, you might have got some criticisms leveled against to these, if rather I would say the way in which internationalism human rights has come in shall also be looked even from the perspective of the postmodernistic attitudes or postmodernistic approaches are concerned. The postmodernism that itself is questioned the modernization, especially modernization, you give more importance to capitalism, whereas in case of postmodernism, it gives more importance to understand the relationship between capitalism and the communism message. So through capitalism and communism, and you can overcome the classes between haves and have-nots. So in that context, we have designed it. So look at, in postmodernism, you may say, I am a genius. Okay, whereas in case of modern and postmodern, you may say in otherwise manner. That's what I must share with you. No one is a superior or inferior. All are equally footing. That has to be looked into. I must share with you, an egoistic person, he will never ever die because he has no human body. So whenever a person who is actually passing some legislations for the betterment of the entire society should have a very good mindset. Otherwise, these problems would be continued. That's why you can make a categorical distinction between modernism and postmodernism, as how modernism is answerable vis-a-vis postmodernism. So in that context, one should understand. See, as we have seen, the postmodernists have never underestimated the importance of human rights. They have not been underestimated, but they have questioned certain theoretical observations which were overriding and empowering the human rights with certain vested interest in the sense that political interest. That's very, very important. So that's why they argue, postmodernists, they argue that ethical issues such as human rights only need to be seen and dealt with in a novel way. You have to see these human rights in a rightistic perspectives. That's very, very important. Otherwise, these rights would become, dysfunctional, and you will be answerable. And moreover, how long you can keep the same problem? How long? You should come with some concrete solutions to understand them, clear the doubts, okay, and you find happiness in the society. This is what Jeremy Bentham acknowledged on the basis of utilitarian approaches. So in that context, you have to develop. Otherwise, these problems would be continued. Look at inter-country adoptions. How will you understand inter-country adoptions, inter-country marriages, inter-country contracts? So something has to be looked into when you are actually sending a child from one place to another place, which is unknown to him. Please understand. Okay, then when you are actually getting married with a foreigner, so what kind of policies, laws you have through which you can understand human values over there? That's very, very important. On the other hand, when you go for certain agreements with a foreigner, so which law would prevail over the subject? When there is a breach of contract, and he will be suffered. So that's why what kind of policies would be looked into. So these are the perceptions in which the way in which the private international law has come in, which should be addressing these issues shall also be in a way wherein which the policies shall also be looked to clear the doubts between the people who have come from other nations. That's very, very important. That's what I said. In a way, just to sit for a while in an international airport, how many foreigners are actually entering India, how many Indians are actually migrating to other parts of the world, is actually unimaginable proportions you find. That's why the human migration is quite common all over the world. You cannot stop based on your peripheral legislations are concerned. That's one of the major observations we have. On the other hand, so based on these traditional understandings, look at some of the cases decided by Honorable Supreme Court of India, especially in a Shankari Prasad case, Sajjan case, then Keshavananda Bharati versus State of Kerala, in which they have gone through step by step to understand the basic structure theory as such. The basic structure theory shall also be looked into, and you have to understand the supremacy of the constitution, the unity and sovereignty of India, democratic and republic form of government, then federal characteristics of the constitution, the secular characteristics of a constitution, the separation of our individual freedoms, which are actually enshrined under Article 19 of the constitution shall also be looked into. That's very, very important. On the other hand, adding to this doctrine of basic structure theory, as many as cases have been actually decided to understand the rule of law, judicial review, parliamentary system, rule of equality, and the harmony between directive principles of state policies and the fundamental rights. So they should go hand in hand. This is what the theory of harmonious construction between fundamental rights and directive principles of state policies have come in. Then on the other hand, a limited power of parliament to amend the constitution. You cannot amend the entire constitution, as you cannot burn it, you cannot overwrite it. This is what it has been actually directed through certain cases, especially Keshavananda Bharati versus state of Kerala as such. Even in Indira Nehru Gandhi Rajanarayan's case, in fact, democracy, judicial review, rule of law came out with some concrete solutions. Look at the Minerva Mills 1980. This case again strengthens the basic structure theory. The judgment has struck down two challenges made to the Constitution of by the 42nd Amendment Act of 1976, declaring them to be violative of the basic structure. On the other hand, even the Ovamaram case in 1981 held that amendments made to the 9th schedule until the Keshavananda judgments are valid. Those passed after that date can be subject to legal scrutiny. As yes, you have to scrutinize on the basis of a judicial review or a curative petition, as shouldered under Article 136 and 137 of the Constitution of this esteemed country as such. And on the other hand, in 1994, in fact, S.R. Bommai's case emphasized by saying that there was no question of the Constitutional Amendment, but even so, the basic structure doctrine was applied based on the what shall I say, the social justice as such. So time and again, in fact, so based on these earlier history of the mankind, the way in which courts are adhering to certain steps shall also be looked into. They would be called as a novel way, novel way in the sense that you have to grow certain laws through which you can overcome long-standing issues between individuals or between states themselves. Then postmodernistic most postmodernists need to begin taking rights more seriously, but later on they questioned on the basis of preponderant interest of a common man as such. Yeah, that's why the rights are given to overcome some of the issues that has to be looked into. So what kind of remarks you have, isn't it? So whatever the merits of the entirety of their arguments, the postmodernists emphasize the paramount importance of human rights are concerned. They have not actually ignored paramount interest of these human rights. They are within you to understand the human values are concerned. So with these few observations, if you have got some questions, I'll be able to give an answer to you. Do you have some questions so that we can discuss? Yeah. Do you have some questions? Hello.
Namaste, sir.
Namaste.
Sir, what I mentioned with regard to postmodernism on law, now we are having this synthesis because the technology, medical technology is developed and the technical technology is developed more. Because of the technical advancement, medical advancement, see what we can determine the sex of the child, and to control this, we are having the MTP Act also. But still, they are misusing this technology. Is it true or not, sir?
Yeah, obviously there are two sidelined approaches. One is advantages and disadvantages. Whenever you want to go for even making some policies, there will be a chance to have diversifications. The overall conclusion, if rather I would say, holistically or on the basis of integrated approaches, yes, the people who are highly marginalized should get some benefits out of it. So when you deal with, science and technology, so that is there, no doubt in it, isn't it? Misusing science and technology, that is there. And on the other hand, you cannot leave the people who have created as many as problems to you. And there is a lot of scope to overcome. Based on criminal justice, you can overcome. Yeah. Yeah, do you have some questions?
No, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sir, one more thing.
Yeah.
So this, what you told, the law change, Roscoe found, as mentioned, no, sir, it is a sociological theory. As he told that the law should change as according to the society, changes in society. Is it, sir? Now it is more accepted law of the Roscoe found, is it, sir?
Yeah, that is what I have quoted Stephen Hugo's statement. Law is an instrument of social change. It may change from time to time as the science and technological development. Isn't it? See, first of all, you have to understand science and technology, through which you can make some policies. That would be fine. So that you can overcome certain intricacies between science and law as such. And moreover, if rather I would say, there are so many conflicts all along. A conflict between man and nature, that is there. If you are suffering from any disease, you go to doctor and have some treatments, isn't it? So in that context, I must share with you, when there is a conflict between man and nature, solution can be found through science. Through science and technology, you can overcome a clash between man and nature as such. This is one of the observations I have. On the other hand, it is because of developmental activities and vested interest of states, your environment is highly diluted. And moreover, if rather I would say, you have to accustom to the custom of the law of nature. Otherwise, the nature will take retaliation and reprisal against a human being. So this is very, very important. That's what I must share with you. Whatever you have got some developmental activities, even at the international level, should be flexible with environmental concern. That is what your sustainable development came in. That's why I must share with you, when there is a conflict between man and nature, obviously solutions can be found through science and technology. Through science and technology, you can overcome. Otherwise, these problems would be continued. Yeah. So look at certain steps which are actually taken place at the international level. Say, for example, UNFCCC is a United Nations framework on climate change, isn't it? You please change your politics, but you cannot change, climate as such. Change your politics, vested interest, isn't it? In the name of religion, you are killing many. In the name of a caste, you are killing and targeting the vulnerable section of the society as such. Especially in India, it's very difficult. Though we have had as many as specific legislations, it is because of the development that are taken place through the higher judiciary. Look at the higher judiciary. Very shame. Certain judgments are highly, undemocratic, scrupulous. They are actually against to the vulnerable groups. So this has to be looked into, and they have to be verified time and again.
Maruthi.
So in this context, if rather I would say there are so many challenges and vitiated around the human rights, human values. Of course, you cannot keep the same problems for a long time. Somewhere you have to sit and decide what is to be done, what ought not to be done, for the preponderant interest of a common man who is living in this earth planet as such. He may be from any country. That's a different issue. He may be from any country, be it a refugee, be it a IDP, internally displaced person, be it a person who has been actually deported. So in that context, the human rights are universal in character. They are there everywhere. They have no boundaries. Please understand. That's why they have been actually outspoken at the national and the international level as such. So that's why I have actually emphasized. As far as the second observation is concerned, there is a dichotomy or a clash between man with other men. If that is the case, how will you overcome? You can overcome on the basis of politics. Through politics, you can overcome a clash between man with other men. And on the other hand, you can have your own problem. How will you solve the problems? I have got my own problem. How can I solve my problem? So through spiritual activities or meditation or religious perceptions, you can overcome. That is that. So in these perspectives, these human rights are actually vitiated in otherwise manner. This is one of the observations I have. On the other hand, when you are actually running with religious terrorism is actually one of the biggest challenges around the globe. Look at Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, Taliban, ISIL, ISA. See, as many as, and I mean to say that the religious groups are in fact targeting the people in the society itself. Look at hijacking. Though we have got many mechanisms at the international level, hijackings are actually taking place. Then who is this responsibility to overcome terrorism and hijacking? It is the responsibility on the part of a state. Lots of obligations are shouldered on the state that has to be looked into based on law of obligation. Say what kind of law obligations you have, what kind of law of obligations is actually shouldered on you. That's very, very important. And moreover, the entire civil society is responsible for gross violation of human rights. Entire civil society is responsible for gross violation of human rights are concerned. This is one of the observations I have. On the other hand, look at the statistics given by NCRB. So NCRB reports are highly expressive. Nobody is actually taking care of this. They are just documenting and sending you. You please sit before internet, get downloaded all information, this and that. So these are the documents, gross violation of human rights against women, children, orphans, LGBT, SCs, STs, minorities. Of course, no doubt, you have to overcome somewhere. You have to sit for a while and decide what is to be done, what ought not to be done. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you,
Some
sir.
other questions? Yeah. ಏನಾದ್ರು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಇದೆಯಾ?
No, sir.
Questions ಏನಾದ್ರು ಇದೆಯಾ? Do you have some questions?
No, sir.
Yeah.
It is a pleasure to express thanks to you, sir, on behalf of HRDC and also other co-participants, sir. You have given very elaborate information about the internally displaced persons and human rights, sir. You have discussed right from the Kashmiri Pandits, that is the genocide, and also the so many statistics with regard to these projects, how the government is taking, state or central government are taking projects, constructing the dams, and those tribal people and the people are staying there, they are displaced, and how they are suffered. You are given very good information about that also, sir. And you are given the differences between the refugees and also these internally displaced persons, sir. The first session is very fruitful and very useful session, sir. Thank you very much for that. And second, also you have given the post-modernization. So modernization, what I told, it should be it should be acceptable. At the same time, we should have the rating mechanism to control all negative effects also. You have given very look and every corner and each and every point you touched upon, and you have given very enlightened and empowered speech for us, sir. With your knowledge, we are enlightened and empowered, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
And at the end of this session, I would like to share that state should be a protector of human rights. State shall not be a violator of human rights. So in this context, I extend heartfelt thanks to each one of you for taking some time to be a part of this session. I thank all of you. Best wishes. May God bless you. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
End by worst.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right? HRDC worst ಮಾಡಬೇಕು.
ಮುದ್ರಾ ಸರ್,
ಮುದ್ರಾ ಸರ್ ಎಲ್ಲಿದ್ದೀರಾ ಸರ್?
ಮುದ್ರಾ ಸರ್.
Sir, sir. No.
ಮುದ್ರಾ ಜಿ.
Sir, sir.
ಹಾ ಸರ್.
ಸರ್ ನಮಸ್ತೆ ಸರ್. ಯಾಕೆ ವಿಡಿಯೋ ನಮ್ದು ಕೆಲವು ಟೈಮ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಕೆಲವು ಟೈಮ್ ನಮ್ದು ವಿಡಿಯೋ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಾ, ಡಿಸ್ಪ್ಲೇ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಾ? ಒಂದೊಂದ್ಸರಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕನೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಕೊಟ್ರೆ ಅದು ಡಿವೈಸ್ ಸೆಟ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅಂತ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಒಂದೊಂದ್ಸರಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಾ? ಅದು ಇವತ್ತು ಅಸೈನ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಇವತ್ತು ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಡೇಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲ? ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಸರ್. ಸರಿ ಸರಿ ಸರ್, ಸರಿ. ಹೌದಾ? ಓಕೆ.
ಹೇಳಿ, HRDC ಅವ್ರು ಇನ್ನೂ ಬಂದಿಲ್ಲ ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ.
ಮುದ್ರಾ ಸರ್ ಇಲ್ಲ ಸರ್?
ಸರ್ ಮುದ್ದುರಾಜ್ ಕಾಣ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಮೇಡಮ್. ಯಾಕೋ ಮಧ್ಯಾಹ್ನ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟೇಶನ್ ಫಸ್ಟ್
ಸರ್ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಸರ್ ಮುದ್ರಾ ಸರ್?
ಸರ್ ಕೂಗ್ತಾನೆ ಇದೀನಿ, ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ. ಮಧ್ಯಾಹ್ನ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟೇಶನ್ ಹಂಗಾಗಿ ಏನ್ ಮೇಡಮ್
ಇಟ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಸರ್.
RC ಮುಗ್ದೇ ಹೋಯ್ತಲ್ಲ ಮೇಡಮ್?
ಮುಗ್ದೇ ಹೋಯ್ತು ಸರ್, ನಾನು 2 ದಿನ
ಎರಡೇ ದಿನ ನೋಡಿ. ನೀವು ಯಾರನ್ನು ಪರಿಚಯನೇ ಆಗದೆ 14 ದಿನ ಮುಗ್ದೋಯ್ತಲ್ಲ.
ಮೈಸೂರಲ್ಲಿ
ಆಫ್ಲೈನ್ ಆಗಿದ್ರೆ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿರ್ತೈತೆ ಸರ್. ಮೈಸೂರಾದ್ರೆ
ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿರೋದು.
ಅದೇ
ನೋಡ್ಕೊತೀನಿ, ಆಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಮುಗಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಂದಾಯ್ತು ಬೇಗ.
ಅಕಾಡೆಮಿಕ್ ಇಯರ್ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಸರ್, ಎಲ್ಲ ಆನ್ಲೈನ್ ಆಫ್ಲೈನ್ ಯಾವ್ದು ಇಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ.
ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಇರಲ್ಲ ಮೇಡಮ್. ನನಗೆ JNU ನಲ್ಲೂ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿತ್ತು, ಬಟ್ ಅದು 16ರಿಂದ ಆಗ್ತಿತ್ತಲ್ಲ ಫಸ್ಟ್. ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಜಾಯ್ನ್ ಆಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟೆ. ನಮ್ ಪ್ಯೂರ್ ಜಿಯೋಗ್ರಫಿನೇ ಇತ್ತು ಮೇಡಮ್. JNU ಜವಾಹರ್ಲಾಲ್ ನೆಹರು ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿ ಡೆಲ್ಲಿ ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಗಿದೆ.
ವೆರಿ ಗುಡ್ ವೆರಿ ಗುಡ್.
ಹಾಗಾಗಿ 16ರಿಂದ ಇತ್ತು, ಬಟ್ ಈಗ ಅರ್ಜೆಂಟ್ ಒಂದ್ ಇರ್ಲಿ ಅನ್ಕೊಂಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡೆ ಮೇಡಮ್. ಇರ್ಲಿ ಆಮೇಲೆ ನೋಡೋಣ ಅಂತ.
ಸರ್ ಪ್ರಮೋಷನ್ ಸರ್ ನಿಮ್ದು?
ಮೇಡಮ್ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಈಗ ಅದೇ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ AGP ಗೆ ಮೇಡಮ್ 2020
ಯಾವ ಸರ್, ಯಾವ ಸ್ಟೇಜ್ ಇದೆ ಸರ್?
ಮೇಡಮ್ ಈಗ ನಮ್ದು ರಿಕ್ರೂಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ 3 years ಆಯ್ತು ಆಗಿ.
ಹೌದಾ?
2017 ರಿಕ್ರೂಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್. PhD ಇನ್ಕ್ರಿಮೆಂಟ್ ತಗೋಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೀವಿ. ತಗೋಬಿಟ್ರೆ 6 ವರ್ಷಕ್ಕಂತೆ. PhD ಇನ್ಕ್ರಿಮೆಂಟ್ ತಗೊಳ್ದೆ ಹೋಗಿದ್ರೆ 4 ವರ್ಷಕ್ಕಂತೆ.
ಯಾಕೆ ತಗೊಂಡ್ರಿ ಸರ್? ತಗೋಬಾರ್ದಿತ್ತು.
ನಮ್ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ತಗೋಬಿಟ್ರು, ಹಂಗಾಗಿ ನಾನು ತಗೋಬಿಟ್ಟೆ ಮೇಡಮ್. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ
ಸರ್ ನಿಮಗೆ ಇನ್ನೂ ಬಂದಿಲ್ಲ?
ಏನು ಮೇಡಮ್?
ಇನ್ನೂ ಬಂದಿತ್ತಾ? ಇನ್ನೂ ಬಂದಿಲ್ಲ
ಏನು?
ಅದೇ PhD ಇನ್ಕ್ರಿಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್
ಮೇಡಮ್. ನಾವು ಜಾಯಿನ್ ಆದ 1 ಮಂತ್ ಇಂದಾನೆ ತಗೊಂಡ್ವಿ. 2017ರಿಂದಾನೆ ತಗೋತಾ ಇದೀವಿ.
ಕೈರಿ ತರ ಬಂದ್ ಇವಾಗ ಕೈರಿ
ಮೇಡಮ್.
ನಾನು ತಗೊಂಡಿಲ್ಲ, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ 4 years ಗೆ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಡ್ತು ನಂದು. ತಗೊಂಡಿಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಸುಮ್ನೆ ಆಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟೆ. ಯಾರೋ ನನಗೆ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು ಬೇರೆ ಸೀನಿಯರ್ಸ್, ತಗೋಬೇಡ್ರಿ, ಅದ್ ತಗೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ಪ್ರಮೋಷನ್ ಗೆ 6 years ಕಾಯ್ಬೇಕು ನೀವು ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ರು. ಅದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಇದು ಬೆಸ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ವಾ ಅಂತ 4 years ಗೆ ಇದಾಯ್ತು ನಂದು. ಈಗ ನಾವು 9 ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕು.
ಮೇಡಮ್ ನಿಮ್ದು ಯಾವ ಬ್ಯಾಚ್ ಮೇಡಮ್? ಯಾವ ಬ್ಯಾಚ್ ಮೇಡಮ್?
2009 ಬ್ಯಾಚ್ ಸರ್.
ನಮ್ದು 2009 ಮೇಡಮ್.
ಹೌದು ಮೇಡಮ್. ನಿಮ್ ಬ್ಯಾಚ್
ಸರ್?
ನಮ್ ವೈಫ್ ನಿಮ್ ಬ್ಯಾಚ್ ಮೇಡಮ್, 2009 ಬ್ಯಾಚ್.
ಹೌದಾ ಸರ್? ಏನ್ ಡಿಪಾರ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್
ಹಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿ ಮೇಡಮ್.
DIG ಗ್ರೂಪ್ ಸರ್ ಅಂತ ನೀವು
ಸಂಬಳ.
ಈಗಿನ ಕಾಲದಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರು ಸರ್ ಒಬ್ಳು ಸಂಬಳ ಇಬ್ರದೇ ಎಲ್ಲಾರುವೆ.
ನಾನು ಇದಕ್ಕೂ ಮೊದ್ಲೇ ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿನಲ್ಲಿ ವರ್ಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೆ, ಪೋಸ್ಟ್ ಡಾಕ್ಟರಲ್ ಸ್ಕಾಲರ್ ಆಗಿ. UGC ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಗಿತ್ತು.
ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಸರ್? ಮೈಸೂರು ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿಯಾ?
ಮೈಸೂರು ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿನಲ್ಲೇ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಅದನ್ನ ರಿಸೈನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ರಿಕ್ರೂಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಯ್ತಲ್ಲ ನಮ್ಮ ಮಹಾಜನದಲ್ಲಿ, ಹಂಗಾಗಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದೆ ಮೇಡಮ್.
ರಮೇಶ್ ಸರ್ ಇಲ್ಲ?
ರಮೇಶ್ ಸರ್ ಇಲ್ಲಪ್ಪ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಯಾರು ಕಾಣ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಸುಮ್ನೆ ಇದಾರೆ ಸೈಲೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಇವತ್ತೆಲ್ಲ.
ಮೇಡಮ್ ಹೇಳಿ ಮೇಡಮ್.
ಇದ್ರೆ
ಸರ್ ಬಿಟ್ರ ಲಂಚ್ ಬ್ರೇಕ್ ಬಿಟ್ರ?
ಲಂಚ್ ಬ್ರೇಕ್ ಬಿಟ್ಟಾಯ್ತು ಸರ್.
ಮತ್ತೆ ಲಂಚ್ ಮಾಡಲ್ವಾ? ಅಲ್ಲ ಮಾತುಕತೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂತಿದ್ದೀರಾ? ಏನ್ ಮೇಡಮ್?
ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಎಲ್ಲಿದ್ರಿ ನೀವು ಅಂತ ಕೇಳ್ತೀರಾ ಸರ್?
ಓಕೆ ಸರ್, ಎಂಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಊಟ ಮಾಡಿ. ಅಲ್ಲ ಇನ್ನೇನ್ ಮನೇಲಿ ತಾನೇ ಊಟ, ಬಿಸಿ ಬಿಸಿ ಊಟ ಮಾಡಿ ಸರ್.
ಸರಿ ಸರ್.
ಆಮೇಲೆ ನಂಜುಂಡ ಸ್ವಾಮಿ ಸರ್ ಅಪ್ಡೇಟ್ ಇದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲೇ ಇವರು ಫೋಟೋ ಇಲ್ಲ ಹಂಗಿನ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ಆಮೇಲೆ ಬಂದು
ಮನೆ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗ್ಲಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ನಾವು ಹೋಗಲ್ಲ ನೀವು ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ ಮಾಡೋವರ್ಗೆ.
ಓಕೆ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಓಕೆ
ಓಕೆ ಸರ್ ಓಕೆ
ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಸರ್.